Hi, welcome to Planetary Calendars, Astro Portraits. I'm Ralph Demetrius, one of the astrologers. Our portrait this time is a interesting comparison. It's Kristen, Stewart, and Diana, Princess of Wales, the part she is playing in a movie. Now, Kristen Stewart was born April 9th, 1990, a Monday at 9:21 a.m. PDT, Los Angeles, California. Diana was born July 1st, 1961, 7:45 p.m. BST, -1, Sandringham, England. It's interesting when you look at the charts of people who play famous people. In other words, it's different if you just have a role and you're making the role up, the role is imaginary, and you're having to create the character. But this is playing a person who lived. And Kristen is born in Aries, 19 degrees Aries. It's the only major planet she has in Aries. Her Mercury is in Taurus, her Venus is in Pisces, her Mars is in Aquarius, her Saturn is in Capricorn along with Neptune and Uranus, her Pluto is in Scorpio, her Moon is in Libra, and her Jupiter is in Cancer. It's all spread out. There's no stellium, no clusters, no concentrations. This is a person who just, the whole chart is spread out. If you took away the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, there'd be no planet, no sign with two planets in it. It's that spread out. That's unusual to see. It means she's a very diverse person. She's someone who really sees the big picture naturally because she relates to all these different areas. She's less focused on a single role, which is funny for an Aries. Aries, you expect them to be self-directed. She has Gemini rising. She has the moon in Libra. Now, this is generally kind of part of the finishing touches on a series on actors that do action roles, and she really should have been in the early part of the series with the women because she fits so well. She has the Sun in Aries, something that's very common in action actresses. Gemini rising, once again, it's Mercury ruled and Mars ruled. These are the people who like to get in stuff. Mars in Aquarius shows up a lot of times in actresses that do these types of roles. It's Aquarius is the exalted position for Mercury, so it's a very, very electrified position. The moon in Libra, well, that's the arts. She's an actress. She's not a soldier. She's an actress. The moon in Libra is, the desire to create harmony in the world, and that's part of the role of the actor. But what's very interesting is when we look at her chart and relate it to Diana's. When you're getting an actor to play someone, you don't want them to channel that person. You don't want the same person. You want an interpretation. When you look at this, where do they relate? Well, what's funny is that their rising signs, the way in which they initially approached the world, were opposite. Diana was Sagittarius rising. She was someone who approached the world with great optimism, right? Kristen is Gemini rising. She approaches the world with, rather than optimism, a sense of humor, a sense of the wry and a sense of the comic. One is, look at the great future we have, and the other one is making wisecracks on the way there. So, this polarity goes on between these two. But you have places where they have wonderful connections. For instance, they're both born with Saturn in Capricorn. It means they're 28 years apart. They're part of a similar Saturn generation. And Saturn is so important in the charts of people who are very successful. It's very shown up in very successful actors because you really have to have that drive to achieve. But the Saturn in Capricorn is very classic. This is the feminine ruling sign of Saturn. It's about really achieving kind of coming from the sense of the matriarchy. The women in my family, the lineage in my family says I should achieve. And that's really where it's applied. And they have that in common. There's a great generosity. When Kristen is doing this for the role, really brought a great deal of generosity to it because Kristen's Jupiter, the place in which she is generous, is right on Diana's sun. And if you ever meet someone who has Jupiter on their sun, they just love doing stuff for you. They bring you gifts. They take you out to lunch. It's just people who have Jupiter, that Jupiter-Sun connection is just lovely. And Kristen has that relationship to Diana. There's other places too. Diana had a moon in Aquarius. It's one of the things that gave her that big global vision. Kristen has the Mars in Aquarius. She understands that energy. The two are very, very close, a couple of degrees apart. Aspects will tell you how things are connected. So when you're looking at people's charts, two people's charts, you want to look at the aspects. The angles between their two Venuses. A woman's Venus is always going to be relatively strong, men too. But among actors, it's very, very strong. Between their Venuses, Kristen had her Venus in Pisces. Diana has her Venus in Taurus, in a rulership position. So Diana has her position in the classic feminine ruler for Venus. Kristen has hers in the exalted position for Venus. They're both very strong. They're a quintile apart, 72 degrees. That is called the degree of the goddess. It's 1/5 of the zodiac, and it is the degree of creativity. It describes the cycles of Venus. It's a complex geometry, but the cycles of Venus, and it relates very strongly to our ability to be creative in the world. The basic creativity that women bring to the world by creating children. It's very much that. It's described by the Vesica Pisces or Vesica Pisces in architecture. The ability to be creative. And that's the degree between their Venuses, with one in rulership and one exaltation. So this embodiment of feminine, of the Venusian energy is really powerful. And that's a big place where they have their connection. Another place where they have their connection that's interesting is between their Jupiters. Now, Jupiter's opportunity. And now remember, Kristen is, Gemini rising. Diana's Sagittarius rising. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which means that for Kristen, her descendant, the way in which she connects to the world, is Sagittarius. So the Sagittarius-Mercury connection is very, very strong. How are their Jupiters connected? They're connected by a quincunx, 150 degrees. This is this is really Venus's degree. Why is it Venus's degree? Because the rulerships of Venus are connected together by quincunxes and sextiles. Libra to Taurus, which are the extrovert versions, the masculine, feminine rulership, those are connected by 150 degrees. The detriments are the opposite, which are Scorpio, and I'll get this straight in just a second, Scorpio and Aries is connected by 150 degrees. And then when you add in the exaltation of the fall, then you get the sextiles. So those are the degrees. That particular shape, they call it a yod, is the degree of Venus, of how they're connected. The thing about it is that women have this incredible ability to take what seems like completely unconnected information to a man and come to a conclusion. And a correct conclusion is that, just like pull stuff out of, where did that come from? Yeah, but is their particular talent. And it has to do with the ability to go back and forth between the two sides of the brain very, very easily. Women have more connections between the two sides of the brain. Why? Women tend to be more creative than men, generally speaking. And that's that quincunx and sextile. The yod, when yods show up in a person's chart, it means stuff comes out of the blue. How did this happen? And many times when you have quincunxes in a person's chart, they will not understand how stuff happened. Where did this come from? And that's one of the parts of the connections that these two women have. This unexpected femininity, the power to make connections where there doesn't seem to be any connection at all. Right? Which, definitely thinking of Kristen Stewart and Diana, Princess of Wales, how far do you have to kind of go to connect those two together? Well, maybe you look through their Venus having a quintile, the degree of the goddess, and their Jupiter's having a quincunx. Maybe there were other energies there that stepped in and said, these two, like this. But I'm sure that doing this role dramatically changed Kristen in some ways, because you couldn't delve this much into this type of personality with these kind of connections and not change you in a fundamental way. Their moons were trine. Their ascendants, I said, are opposite. the Saturn's conjunct, the Venus is quintile, the Jupiter to Sun connection. And this is interesting. And the nodes are reversed. One's north node is conjunct to the other one's south node. So there's something fated in there. There's something reincarnational in there. There's some kind of crossing each other's paths again, somehow or other. So it's just a very, very interesting thing. Honestly, Kristen's chart would be enough, or Diana's chart would be enough for a thing. But seeing these kind of magical connections is really remarkable, really remarkable. So that's the portrait this week, Diana, Princess of Wales, and Kristen Stewart. And please come see us on Tuesdays when we do these portraits. They're educational and hopefully entertaining. Come see us on Fridays when we do our forecasts for the coming week. You can find those all at Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube. And please subscribe and push the little bell so you get reminded when the forecast and the portraits come up. And you can always find our portraits, our books, our calendars at planetarycalendar.com. Until next time, be well.